When you think of a villain, what comes to mind? For some, you might think of pure evil, evil done for evil's sake, satisfaction brought on by the pain and suffering of others. People like the Lich, the Joker, Frieza, and other villains immediately pop into mind. Little to nothing is needed to explain why they're villains other than how happy it makes them. For others, you might think of villains who are presented as morally gray, who try to justify their bad or evil actions for a greater good, or are presented as bad guys who occasionally do good. Harley Quinn or Eren Yeager might come to mind for this type of villain. But there's one villain I think we've had way too much of over the last decade, and that's the tragic villain. Tragic villains may have some kind of traumatic backstory that pushes them towards their cause. They may have been taken over by a power they thought was good but was truly evil, and others get so lost in the mission for good that they end up being the evil that they would fight against. This is one of the most popular ways to present your antagonist, as it humanizes them and gives them a layer of complexity for us to discuss in real life. Think of Darth Vader, Jigsaw, Mr. Freeze, or Pain. Personally, I think tragic villains can be done well, but it's such an oversaturated trope, it can be difficult to do well. And writing them well isn't the only concern. The fan bases and audiences need to be able to understand these characters, and many fans can struggle to understand narratives being presented to them, particularly two huge fan bases: fans of Wanda Maximoff from the MCU, and fans of the League of Villains from My Hero Academia. Despite the number of bad things these characters have done, their tragic backstories cause a lot of confusion in general audiences. I love these characters, but they aren't free from harm. For quite a number of people, they believe having a tragic backstory completely negates the bad done by these characters. Well, I'm here to tell you otherwise. Tragedy isn't innocence. These sad backstories often serve as a way for authors to comment on something in real life, or to further push the narrative the story is trying to deliver. So let's take a look at exactly what these authors were trying to say through these characters. By the end of this video, I hope you two will be able to see that having a tragic backstory does not make you inherently innocent. Let's start off with Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. Wanda was first introduced in the MCU in Avengers Age of Ultron after being teased with her brother and presented with a different origin in the comics. In the MCU, her and her brother Pietro were children of Sokovia who lost their families due to strikes from America, specifically from the Air Force utilizing Stark weapons. They joined Hydra and got experimented on via the Mind Stone. This awakened latent powers, specifically Wanda's powers as the Scarlet Witch, but she wouldn't come to own that title for many years. Without going over the whole plot, Wanda eventually loses her brother, joins the Avengers, and begins developing a connection with Vision. Fast forward some time, and after supporting Captain America in Civil War, she and Vision began developing a more romantic relationship. When Thanos came to Earth for the Infinity Stones, she made a sacrifice play. She was forced to kill Vision in hopes that Thanos wouldn't get the stone, just for Thanos to rewind time, bring back Vision, kill him again, and get the stone, snapping her and millions out of existence. While many others got a happy ending in Endgame, Wanda didn't. Though she returned, Vision didn't. And when she finally found a property that Vision had purchased for them, she broke, unleashing a hex of magic that warped reality around her in order to let her cope with the pain. We can now really start talking about WandaVision. WandaVision kicked off the Disney Plus era of the MCU. The show sought to explore themes of grief while pushing us into the multiverse saga. For some reason, people think Multiverse of Madness, the follow-up to this story, ruined Wanda as a character. She got her proper ending and redeemed herself, so why make her a villain? That was never the case. Wanda was always going down a tragic path. See, I recently rewatched WandaVision, and throughout this show, there are several moments where we learn that Wanda is very aware of what's going on, forcibly removing Monica Rambeau, leaving the hex and threatening sword, rewriting Vision's memory anytime he learned the truth, knowing her purpose as the Scarlet Witch to bring destruction, and still using the Darkhold. At several points, it's clear that the showrunners are setting up a hero falling down a dark road, and that's not a bad thing. It can be presented well. In fact, I think Wanda's road to becoming a villain was handled really well. For some reason, a lot of the internet thinks otherwise. They'll never know what you sacrificed for them. This line is the root of the problem. We can acknowledge the grief that Wanda underwent. She lost her home, brother, lover, and the children she made. However, that statement from Monica damaged how people interpret the narrative being presented. While we can understand the pain Wanda's feeling, it was not an excuse for the pain she caused others, and it wasn't an excuse for the full completion of her character arc in Multiverse of Madness. I was always confused when people would say, Wanda made a complete character turn in Multiverse of Madness. The Darkhold corruption is stupid. She wouldn't do this after WandaVision. Wandavision? Did we watch the same show? The show where Wanda was almost fully content keeping her hex to ensure Vision and her kids lived? The show where she didn't apologize to a single Westview citizen? The show that ended with her using the same Darkhold that she was told would guide her towards destruction? The show that emphasized Wanda was tired of always sacrificing and was ready to be selfish? What part of Wandavision made you feel Wanda was a redeemed hero going down a good path? Fixing pain you caused does not automatically redeem you. I watched that ending and knew nothing good was coming for the future. The only thing I can imagine was people watched the show in their minds and hearts and not the show that was being presented on screen. I mean, compare reactions to Wanda to Riri Williams. Both faced tragedy, both made poor decisions, and while both made heroic plays in the end, they still doubled down on bad behavior. I saw plenty of negative reviews of Riri's character, calling her all types of names, but Wanda gets defense, or even has people saying they ruined her character. To me, this exposes a larger problem that would need a separate video in itself to discuss how the intersection of various identities makes up how we consume these narratives. I love both of their narratives, but it's of no surprise to me that the European mother gets defense where the young adult black woman gets scrutinized. Overall, Wanda isn't a bad character by any means. Was the execution perfect? No, but we don't need to hinge on one line about sacrifice being what the character is about. Wanda showcases how pain can eventually push us to become the monsters we once fought. There are plenty of characters who try to do good no matter how much bad happens to them, and not every single one is going to come out on top and remain a hero. Wanda didn't, and she wasn't ruined for it. She was a great character, just not an innocent one or ruined one that many fans claim her to be. But luckily for us, there are people who have done far worse that have way more shooters than her. Let's talk about My Hero Academia and the League of Villains. Before we go on, if you enjoy this video and discussions on gaming, anime, cartoons, and TV film, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out our Streamcast, which is our weekly show on Twitch and YouTube on Mondays at 7 p.m. Our community is growing and your support would mean the world to us. Now let's get back to the show. In My Hero Academia, people have the opportunity to go to hero schools to become full-on professional heroes, using what they call their quirks. The one everyone aspires to be like is All Might, who helped stop the age of villainy and defeated All for One. All for One knew he needed a successor to push his plans forward while he remained the mastermind. Enter Tomura Shigaraki and the League of Villains. In particular, Shigaraki, Toga, and Dabi. Each of these villains has something in common besides manipulation from All for One. They have quirks that Hero Society didn't understand, little to no support from family or others who rely on heroes too much, and they all slip through the cracks of society. This was one of the major narratives in My Hero, hence why Deku emphasizes how he and his classmates became the greatest heroes by changing all of society. Shigaraki's original quirk was stolen, and he was given decay. Dabi's fire burned so hot it would continue to destroy his body over time, and Toga's quirk allows her to transform into someone if she ingests their blood. Shigaraki was completely groomed by All for One, with his entire life being manipulated by him to become his perfect vessel. Dabi was ignored in an abusive household when all he yearned for was his father's time and love. And Toga was disavowed by her family and called a demon child from a young age. And while they all have tragic backstories that showcase why Deku and others needed to drastically change society, not a single one of these characters is an innocent one. Each of them has regularly killed individuals. Plenty of them actually. While Toga's count is unknown, we've seen Shigaraki do plenty, and Dabi on video confessed to his own number of 30+ people. They each actively worked towards the destruction of Hero Society, supporting the League whether it was Shigaraki or All for One in the lead role. They actively fought children with the intention to kill. Those complex backstories do not hide or distract us from these facts. These characters are far from innocent. Fans of these characters claiming their innocence have the same problem as Wanda fans. They are watching a show in their head and not understanding what the narrative is telling them. It gets to a point when people are saying Shigaraki, Dabi, or Toga are more heroic than Endeavor, All Might, or others, or that Deku was a true failure because he didn't really save Shigaraki. I mean, with Shigaraki, you can somewhat try to fight for his partial innocence, but he was a villain in his own regard. He knew what title he wanted. Dabi fans just hate Endeavor and want him to be considered a villain. There is no past for the horrible things he's done, but he's actively helped and supported Hero Society whether we like him or not. Whether or not you think his private life should impact his public image as a hero is irrelevant, and Toga fans care more about shipping her with Uraraka than understanding her character. No, these two were not in love. please give me power scaling children and not shipping children. The League of Villains were put into the story to challenge Deku and Hero Society, forcing them to address how their current systems can and will continue to create villains. They stole, injured, destroyed, and killed. They didn't bring change through peace, nor did they do so through resistance. Turning them into heroes would completely go against Shigaraki's final words. The tragedy behind these villains spurred the best heroes of that world to cause change. While we commend, we cannot revise the history. Don't get me wrong, I love a good sad backstory that justifies why the character is doing what they do. But when we start saying villains were right, justified, or even morally superior than the heroes, we have to draw a line. I can't tell you how many times I cringe when someone says Thanos or Killmonger were right, or try to justify Wanda or the League of Villains. Those sad backstories give these characters humanity we can connect with, but their actions show us the road we need to avoid. Personally, I think we need to take a break from villains with these sad backstories, and it isn't the fault of the authors. It shows how much that they can make characters we can connect to. It's the fans who aren't always able to critically think about these characters. They approach fictional characters like they're real, and real people like they're fictional. But that's a video topic for another time. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and if there are other examples you could think of. I love a good discussion in the comments. But until next time, thank you for watching, and be sure to keep on keeping on.